And we're live now, Councillor Leggett.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this first Te Puna Kōrero meeting of the year, the date being the 17th of February. So let's start with the agenda. We have no apologies. Everyone's here. Thank you very much. Public forum, we have no requests to speak. Are there any conflict of interest declarations? That being a no, I take it. Let's move to item 4, which you will have seen notification of extraordinary business. So the Chief Executive has notified members of one item of extraordinary business in relation to the temporary suspension of paid parking. The report wasn't on the agenda as the coincidence of red light setting with implementation of paid parking was unforeseen. And that's when the bylaw was agreed, or when we agreed the bylaw, and a time frame for implementation was approved. The report can't be delayed as a decision is urgently needed to help mitigate the effects of Omicron on our business community. So I'm going to move that we consider the item, which you will have all seen came through last night at this meeting. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Mayor Baker, or Izzy, sorry. Thank you, Izzy. We'll get to this item as item 6.5. So I'm going to put it to the vote that we put the item on the agenda. All those in favour? Aye, or just hold your hands up. That's fine. Carried. Thank you very much, everyone. As I said, that'll appear as item 6.5. So let's move to item 5, which is confirmation of minutes of the Te Puna Kōrero meeting of the 2nd of December. I'm going to move that to get it on the table. Do I have a seconder, please? Yes, thank you, Councillor Ford. I'm moving it as a true and correct record. Does anyone wish to make any corrections, make any comments on those minutes of the 2nd of December last year? In that case, I'll move those minutes as true and correct. All those in favour, hold your hands. Thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Chair.
you have a... Izzy, you have a...
Yeah, I do. Yes, I do. Just with item 7.2, in the minutes, it's noted the votes for and against, and it seems to have omitted Councillor Mose Ngalo.
Right. Anyone else wish to comment? Mose, are you... he does appear there somewhere, doesn't he? Okay. So with that correction, is that noted, Jack?
Yep, we'll make a note of that.
Okay, thank you. With that correction, and welcome Taku as well. With that correction, I'd like to move those minutes. All those in favour, put your hands up. Those that are against, carried. Thank you, everybody. So now we move to item 6.1, which is proposed temporary road closure. I'm going to move the report. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Duncan. This is a reasonably simple report in terms of just asking for road closures for events to take place. Now, they may or may not take place, but we're doing that to make sure that that it's all set for them anyway. So does anyone have any questions or comments on the paper? Councillor Ford?
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question around Creekfest, and it's good to hear your explanation around what just doing, just in case. Creekfest, there was a notification to say that it was going to be moved to the end of this year because of Omicron. So does that does it mean anything different because we're approving it now today? Or can I get just officer comment around that process? If it doesn't take place, and then if it does happen later on, does it come back to council?
Good question.
Through the
Andrew?
chair, we've got that problem already, Councillor Ford, with another event that we approved earlier last year, and we've decided, Jack's given us some advice, that we'll use a special provision of the Local Government Act to make it happen without needing to bring it back to council. So it's quite clear what your intent is. You're happy for to close the roads for these events, and if there is another change of date, we will make it happen as officers.
Is that okay with you, Izzy? Yeah. Any other questions from anyone? That being the case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, just hold your hands up. Those against, carried. Thank you very much, everybody. So that moves us to item 6.2. Yep. Sorry.
Can I ask a question? I had my hand raised the whole time, but
are
you using normal hands or the hand raising button?
No, I'm going to use normal hands, but I can't see you on my screen. Where are you?
You're far away.
Again. Okay.
Oh, now I can see you. Yeah. If you just turn your thing. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. That's fine. I won't raise it. I'll raise my normal hand.
Yeah.
Rather than the hand.
Yeah.
Abnormal.
Sorry. Go on.
No, it doesn't matter. Move on.
Okay. In that case, I will put the motion. All those in favour, hold your hands. I can see them again. Yep. Those against, carried. So that moves us to item 6.2, which is Porirua City Council Transport Bylaw. I'm going to move this report. Do I have a seconder to? Yes, Councillor Morell. Thank you very much. To get it on the table. This is pretty clear cut as well in terms of what we're being asked to do. I won't ask officers to run through it unless they think it's absolutely necessary. Maybe we can handle things if anyone has any questions.
Can't see my hand at all, can you?
Yes, I can.
We can, sorry.
Yep. Councillor Weehappy and then Mayor Baker and then Councillor Ford. Councillor Weehappy.
Thank you. Hey, just in regards to the 60-minute parking restriction in Bedford Street, assuming that 223 is that medical centre, I'm just wondering why we're only proposing 5 car parks. Considering the climate that we're in at the moment, I would have expected, thought that we would have more car parks available for that short-term parking.
Who's going to answer that? Ethel?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Weehappy, we got a complaint from the medical centre specifically, who are concerned about their patients who are sometimes having to park quite far away. So being that the case, we only decided to do a small number, so 5 spaces, instead of having a larger impact on the community. So that's why that decision was made.
So
how many sorry, can I just
go on? You go.
How many car parks are currently there at the moment directly across in the area that you're talking about?
I haven't counted them up, but I would say about 20 angle parks, and then a huge amount of on-street parallel parking as well. Okay.
So you're starting with 5 and seeing how that goes.
Yes.
And then you could possibly change it. Okay. I just thought that 5 wasn't enough for the medical centre, to be honest. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so we can keep that under advisement, Ethel?
Yes.
We could come back and change it if demand.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll monitor it.
Okay. Is that okay with you, Kylie? Yeah. Mayor Baker.
Does Andrew want to say something? He's been waving his hand at you.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. Chair, at the Chair's briefing, the Chair also asked about the length at 60 minutes, whether that would be long enough, and perhaps it should have been 2 hours. Ethel has talked with the medical centre, but I think the council is correct. we'll see how it goes. If they come back and say more parks or we need longer parking, but they seem to think that their customers usually got through in half an hour, which was interesting to some of us who have been to medical practices before. But I think it's very much, we'll see how it goes and listen to them.
Yeah, correct. So Mayor Baker, do you want to talk now?
Yes, sorry, I just wondered on the Raiha Street one, are we going to put lines on the Harriet Drive as well? And on 20 and 24, where we've had nine residents consulted and only 4 responded, that doesn't give you a number to actually get it through, but you're going ahead anyway. I just wonder, in number 24 is the same, 16 residents, 9 respond. Are you just pushing on with those anyway because people haven't replied? Because some people are saying to us, well, we haven't got our mail, we don't get physical mail. Have these people had phone calls, or is it followed up?
Thank you, Mayor. So I didn't quite get your question about Raiha Street. What was that exactly?
Are there going to be lines on Harriet Drive on the corner as well?
Do you mean Raiha or Prosa? Because Prosa is the one where it's close to.
Yeah, the joining one on the corner. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So it will extend a little bit around, but it should be within the road user rule that you're not supposed to park within 6 meters of an intersection.
No, I actually do mean Harriet. See on my, you can't see the picture. We've had lots of complaints on that corner of Harriet and Prosser that people are parking on that bend and there is no yellow lines there. And that was the one we had so many complaints on, and yet you haven't put them on there. And you told our respondent you were going to.
Yes, so I think it should cover it off. The diagram, are you looking at the diagram?
I'm looking at the diagram and there's no yellow lines on that corner.
Yeah, that's what we consulted on, and Shane, who I think was the person who we were consulting with closely, he was aware of that diagram. So I'm not sure if he's changed his mind on that, but that's what we consulted on, and he was happy with it.
That there are cars parking on the Harriet Drive corner, and he sent photos so many times.
Yeah.
Someone responded saying you would put yellow lines on the corner, seeing you were doing it on the corner of the other one.
Yes, yeah. So we can put a yellow lines on the corner, because you're not supposed to park within 6 meters of any intersection, and so that was my understanding, that people were parking right up to the corner, and even
On the corner.
Yeah, on the corner. So we can mark that without a bylaw, Mayor. So yeah.
Okay, so that will be done then, Athol?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else, Mayor Baker?
Just those ones about the number of residents who have responded in 20 and 24. Like,
yes.
Can you confirm they actually got mail or were spoken to? Because when you say 9 residents consulted but only 4 responded and you're going ahead.
Yeah.
It doesn't give the right number.
I can't confirm that everyone received the mail, but we usually go off the respondents that come back, because that's the only factual information that we have.
I think we have to be very careful there, because this has happened to us before recently. And I'm getting mail, and this does concern me that we're going to stick it in, and there's 5 others who might come to you and say, we don't agree with this. And they may say to you, well, we didn't get the mail, you didn't phone us. I know it's extra work.
Yeah, I can follow that up, Mayor, and see if we can clear that up and try and contact those people.
So where were those again? Just remind me, Mayor Baker.
That's our power place. And those
Our
people.
power.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few where not everyone has come back, so
that street's quite tight, and over the weekend. So anyway, I wouldn't mind that one followed up.
Sure thing.
The same with Mervyn. You've got 16 and only 9 responded, so 7 you haven't heard from, which is really unusual in those areas. Those people would normally all respond.
Right. Yeah. Sure, we can follow that up.
Mayor Baker, I have spoken to a couple of people in that area, and even though that's the case, I think the majority of those people were for that, and the reasons for it seem quite compelling to me. If you can't get a rubbish truck in there,
I don't have a problem with what they've done. I'm just saying the stats don't go over if you come to me and you say, we're going to do it, we've asked 9 people, but only 4 said yes, and the other 5 haven't responded, it's not a good look. Whereas if you say there's 6 out of 9, it's just the stats we're going off, isn't it?
So are we asking Ethel for us not to go ahead with this?
No, I'm not asking him not to do that. I'm just saying it's not a good look going forward. We should be checking that we've got the right numbers before we bring these forward.
Well, no, that's
You're
what
telling me you've spoken to them.
That's what I was going to say. We don't go ahead with this until the other people have been spoken to and/or we get a majority. Is that right?
Well, you're telling me that you've spoken to people there, so I'm going to go with you on this one.
Well, I haven't spoken to everyone there, but I spoke to a couple of residents. That's all. So, look, I'm happy for us. Can we make sure, Ethel, that that what Mayor Baker is saying in terms of contacting people, that we have endeavoured to contact those people and get a response from them, please?
Yes.
Through the chair, we'll do that. There's a slight
Okay.
delay with Fulton Hogan in terms of putting in yellow lines. They're not going as fast as we want, so we'll have no problems doing that.
Okay, that's great. Councillor Ford, did you want to?
Yeah, so it was similar to the mayor's concerns around those who were contacted or consulted and the responses that we got. So it was, and mine was just centered around Bedford Street as well. 15 affected, only 5 responded. How do we ensure that the message at least is getting through to the 10 that didn't respond, and not necessarily getting the response, because sometimes people are just happy to not respond. I'm sweet with that. Just want to make sure that we are definitely doing all that we can to consult with the people who are going to be affected, but also around that 60-minute time, they're going to go see a doctor. In my experience of seeing a doctor, especially in this climate, it does take a while, it takes a lot longer. So I agree with Andrew, and that was my other concern. It's only going to be 60 minutes to go and see a doctor. Is that going to be enough time? But also happy that Andrew's going to be monitoring on, or his team's going to be checking and get back to us to let us know if it's all okay to play or not.
Very good. So is there anyone else that would like to comment on this paper? No? Is there anything?
Sorry, which paper again? Sorry, I just came late.
Oh, holy
So
Lord.
we're talking about, Councillor Sayuli, the Porirua City Council Transport Bylaw, item 6.2. No? Okay. Anyone else? In that case, I'll move the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you very much with those comments for officers. Thank you. So that moves us to item 6.3, which is the naming of a new reserve to be vested in council as part of the Aotea subdivision. I might just get you, Matt. I'll move it to get it on the table. Do I have a seconder, please? Yeah, Councillor Ford, thank you. I might just get you to briefly, Matt, run us through this. Are you going to do that?
Yeah, sure. I can do that,
Dylan.
Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I'm comfortable doing that.
Okay, just very briefly so that people
Yeah.
fully understand what it is we're doing. I take the paper as read.
Yes. Yes. So this paper is a proposal to name a new reserve that's coming to us as part of the later stages of the Aotea development, principally stage 18. It's made up of a number of parcels of land. 2 of those have not yet been subdivided, so they're not actually legal parcels yet. One has and is vested in council, and the reserve itself runs along the Aotea Hill ridgeline and connects into Bothamley Park. So by about probably this quarter, I think the reserve will be vested in council and will be classified later on. But this proposal is just to give it a name. And as part of that naming process as well, we've consulted with Ngāti Toa, and that's the name Te Tau o Aotea was brought about.
Okay, that's good. So, councillors, let's open it. Any questions around this naming? No. Oh, very clear to everyone then, Matt. In that case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Thank you very much, everybody. Carried. So that moves us to item 6.4 on the agenda, which is the finance report. I'll move the finance report. Do I have a seconder, please? Other than Councillor, yes, Councillor Waddle. Thank you. Okay, I'm taking it that you've read it, and I'm sure some questions will come out, but Graham, do you want to, or Joe, do you want to give us a very brief understanding of the highlights of this report?
I'll do that, Chair. Joe's on holiday.
Yes, of course.
So the reports for the 6 months to 31 December, basically in terms of revenue, we are 1.1 million better than budget, and we have an underspend of about 3.1 million year to date. So that gives us a favourable position of about 4.3 million year to date in terms of additional revenue and some underspend year to date. And then in terms of the capital program, we're basically 5 million underspent. That's due to, there's a 2 million overspend overall within the three waters. And then there's about a $7 million underspend across the rest of the council, mainly within the transport program. That's a sort of a high level summary. So we're 10% better than the budget year to date.
Thank you, Graham. So councillors, let's open it up for questions. Are there any questions? Points of clarification? I'm surprised there are, sorry, Councillor Duncan.
Thanks, Ross. Look, mine are in the project exception reports. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
The first one's page 65, Wanera to Onipoto. I note that we've still no quantity surveyor looking at it, and the report warns us that the estimated projected costs are likely to be a lot more than what we're actually looking at the moment. And I note that we include the Wanera beach as well now, with an extra 2 million attached to that. Was there already money for that Wanera one? And if not, how does that look for the money that we're looking at underwriting to see this cycleway go ahead?
Do we have Andrew, are you?
Sorry, Chair, just struggling with Zoom rather than Microsoft Teams meetings at the moment. Just a high-level summary from me. You can see that the project manager has finished up with council. We were hoping to be in a position of having Ngāti Toa's full sign-off pre-Christmas, and the expert reports. There's about 3 expert consultants sitting there with their reports 90% done, finalised. We didn't get that sign-off. Meetings were cancelled, so that was Justine and Nigel trying to get in there and get that finalisation. So we've lost the slots with consultants. You can see in the report, I think, that we've appointed part-time project managers to get going again. And we also have Olivia Dovey coming back, who will take over the project management after those people get through their 10-week assignment. That assignment is to get Ngāti Toa sign off as quickly as possible. Nigel's reasonably optimistic that the conversations are going reasonably well re beaches and things like that. We want to get our application for consent finalised and in. We want to get our funding applications done. So the only thing I'd say, we really don't know about cost. We've got cost blowouts all over the place. We won't know until we get further down to tendering and construction. My issue at the moment is just trying to get the consent application finalised, and Nigel's sort of 95% confident we're nearly there. Just a little bit of toing and froing. So I'm very hopeful that the two ladies that we've got in will be able to meet with Ngāti Toa and get matters finalised.
Okay, does that answer your question?
Well, yeah, not really. Was there money already allocated for the Wanera Beach part of it? Because that was not part of the cycleway in the first place.
Well, through the chair, there was money for the, it's Nigel's money that goes around the side of the harbour, so it extends into the beach, and we were always going to do some work there. It's a conversation about actually how far we should go and what we should do there, and conversations about what was there 100 years ago. Was it a sandy beach, or was it pebbles, or is it boulders, and trying to just work some common sense. So there is some money there. There was always a component that came from Nigel's part of the business into this project. And I think until we actually finalise it and get it costed, I won't know. We won't know.
Okay, does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's fine. I had a couple of others with the Datascape and Know Your Pipes, but do you want to?
No. We can do that. I've got Councillor Sayuli, Councillor Morell, which I note. So let's have your questions first, Councillor Duncan.
Okay. Well, with page 66, Datascape, I didn't see any mention of the foul up that caused property owners in Plymouth to be given a bonus amount and have to pay it back again. Have we covered those bases for future events in Datascape? Have we sort of locked out the likelihood of that happening again?
So is that you, Graham?
I'll just jump in actually. Lynn, do you have any detail on that through you, Chair?
Sorry?
I'm not across that. I'm just checking to see if Lynn has any detail on that one. I might have to go and find out and come back to you on that. Lynn, do you
through you, Chair. So no, sorry, I don't know about that either. So we'll have to go and get some detail and come back to Council.
Okay. All right, Mike.
Okay, then the last one was the Know Your Pipes, page 77. The project summary key updates for phase 1, Titahi Bay. The numbers that we were provided don't strike me as the sort of numbers that would cause the huge overflows that we're having. And I wondered, was the council fault that was found a substantial one then?
Good question. Do we have a response?
Can you hear me, Chair? Can you hear me, Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of the question from Mike.
Okay, the last part of it was this fault found with the council part of the pipes a substantial fault?
Yes, I think it was, Chair. So I think we're finding information all the time that, where we've gone into this project looking at private faults, we're finding faults on our own network and getting them sorted out at the same stage. So my answer would be yes, that there's a reasonable amount of work going on there on the public network as well.
And the second part to that is Semple Street, final bullet, Waiho Terrace property, significant fault there, but they can't get a response from the owner. What's the next step then if you can't get the owner to respond?
Through the chair, there's a series of letters that go, and as you progress, you get down to sort of letter 4, A and B. It's basically that we're going to do the work for you and bill you. And where we've got a quite clear evidence that there is sewage leaking into stormwater, they're working faster rather than slower on it. Interestingly, one of the properties that hasn't responded to us is a Kaiunga Ora property. So we're sort of dealing with the property arm of them to try and get a response.
Right. And the final one then, risk, no stormwater network on some properties. So owners may argue that they're not liable for costs. Are they liable for costs?
I think we've had this question before, Chair, from Kylie, that goes back. It's all about time and how many years back we're talking and everything else. But generally speaking, we'd be looking for the owner to do it at their cost. If there's some sort of logic that the council has erred, then we'll take that into consideration through a building consent sign off or something. But generally speaking, we're looking for the owner to do it at their own cost and expense, and have put a mechanism in place to assist people to do that. And to date, it hasn't been widely required. Well, I don't think we've got any people at all who have picked it up.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, so as I noted before, we've got Councillor Sayuli next, Councillor Morell, Taku, and Councillor Hayward. So, Councillor Sayuli, you have a question?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Hey, just regarding page 68 regarding TG, Transmission Gully. I don't know when this report was written, but it talks about completion in late March. Now, with the new date, does that have an impact at all?
Andrew, you have a...
Yeah, the report, Chair, is for the end of December, of course, and we hear things all the time. We're reliant on the Waka Kotahi NZTA lawyers negotiating with the joint venture. So we're like everybody else. Our link roads become open, or we get the contract finalised a week before the TG itself. So the date does seem to be pushed out further and further. You can see that Waka Kotahi is being a bit more public about the number of safety issues that still have to be signed off, the number of consent issues that have to be signed off. And they were a couple of weeks ago letting the public know the progress on a week-by-week basis, there wasn't much progress at all.
Just a follow-up. So, I guess my question is relating to financial implications in it or no?
Yes, we want this project finalised as we sit here. We're getting letters sent in from the lawyers from the JV saying the government has gone into red, and there'll be costs and expenses for Porirua City Council. We received a letter the other day that said during the course of building your link roads, we've had to make some consent changes. We think you should pay for those consent changes under the contract, and the claim will be $1 million. So that was unexpected. So my general position is the longer we wait to actually get the roads into our ownership, costs keep coming our way.
Thank you, Andrew. We've got that to look forward to then, not. So, Councillor Morell?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a couple of things. One of them's been answered for the Waiho, but on page 27 of the finance report, under projects, under stormwater, obviously the last weekend we've had, it was a bit of a disaster weather-wise. And I note in that report it says that we're waiting for Wellington Water to come back to us with some projects to deliver the remaining $2 million. I just wonder, is there any update from the weekend? And while I'm at it, I also note that in the repairs and maintenance, we're a little bit behind there. But I'm driving down Mana Esplanade this morning, and there's a couple of cones in Pasco Avenue. And the road seems to be dipping, like it's like it's swallowing up the cones. It's been like that now for a week, and I would have thought that some attention should be to that one. And I also think that, and I good on the mayor, she did appear on television. This transmission gully, we as the local body, which is it's affecting us probably the most because of it's through our city, or bypasses our city. This is a farce. I would have thought the consenting process would be a process that would be done throughout the build, not at the end. And the monitoring. So someone's. I don't think.
Councillor Morell, I understand where you're coming from, and I think we all think exactly the same way, but it's not directly related to the finance report, and it's something that we have no control over.
Well, it is because
we have no control over what happens from now on. I completely agree with you.
But we
However,
should be.
It's not germane to this finance report.
Yeah, well, it is, because it's costing us money. You just
Absolutely, as
heard
noted.
the officers say that the delay is costing us money. We can't afford that money, so we should be jumping up and down and saying it's. Look, you go to Kōrero and see how it's looking, which is great. We've done all what we have done, and it just frustrates me.
I think we all absolutely agree with you, Councillor Morell.
Well, as a council, we should be putting our hand up.
Taken.
Right.
Noted for officers. You want to make a comment?
Just getting back to the stormwater, though.
Yep.
Can we have some comment after the weekend?
Yeah, through the chair, everyone can hear me. So we engaged NGO, who are geotechnical experts, and got them in there very quickly. So they did an interim report. They've done a more fuller report now, which has been released to the public. It doesn't have costings in it, but it has a variety of options for trying to fix along Beach Road and the slips that are happening there. Generally speaking, there's solid rock behind the sort of surface material that's coming down, and it will continue to come down and affect the road. So we'll be looking at a variety of solutions, from hydroseeding to, putting a bund into channel water going differently. We've got Wellington Water in terms of the investigations from the street above to see what's happening with the stormwater. It generally goes to ground rather than being piped anywhere. So that'll be taken into account as well. Just a high level picture for you for the financial year. For this sort of emergency work, we had a budget, I think, Porirua City Council, of, hard to see actually, not much, because NZTA Waka Kotahi didn't have funding for this sort of resilience work. We're looking like spending pre the weekend about 1.6, 1.7 million. So some of that gets balanced out of the local road maintenance contract. It's Downer going and responding to all this sort of stuff. So, and it'll blow out further with this Plumerton, and I'm using Plumerton, because that's obvious, but there were other slips in the weekend too, Councillor, that we've got Downer responding to. So we'll just balance it out. Your local road maintenance contract at the moment, from an OPEX point of view, from someone reports a pothole and it needs to be reported, there's no shortage of cash for responding to that. So it's about getting Downer out there to do the interim treatment. We can do that. You've got your road sealing program happening, and we had really good weather over Christmas, so they got started really well, and then they've slowed. They've gone elsewhere. So we want them back on our job. They've got until the end of March. They came back and said, it might take us a bit longer than the end of March, but they've turned around and said, yep, we'll have the resources to finish off your road sealing program. So, and the only change I've got there is we pulled back a couple of jobs that we thought we would do. One's in Kōrero, where we were going to do some sealing down there, but we've decided to stop it, given we're going in as a council now that we're buying properties there and doing structural changes. We'd rather have the sealing afterwards. And the other area is in Simple Street by Burger King, where MPD have putting in an unmanned petrol station. As part of the consent, they're going to move a pedestrian crossing and put another entranceway across the footpath. So we've said it's not a good spend of money to seal that after that work is done. That's freed up a bit of money that I think we'll be putting in emergency works, and our officers will try and get assistance from the NZTA, i.e. over the 55% rate. If that happens, we'll have more money that we can use in a month or two's time to get back onto the local road maintenance program.
For the Pasco Avenue.
I don't know about the Pasco Avenue one, Councillor. I think we'll take note of it and we'll get onto it. Just at the moment, we've got a variety of things around the city because of the weekend. Obviously, Downer's worked pretty hard. They actually got an A+ for their responsiveness to that reactive stuff. It's the general business, the ongoing business, that we're pushing them a bit to make sure they've got people on the job, and they have the same problems that the rest of New Zealand has with a labour force and materials and things like that. So
I'm just conscious of the Pasco Avenue situation. A few years ago, the road collapsed there because of stormwater underneath, and it looks like it's just swallowing up the road now again there.
Okay, I'll get onto it. Have a look at it.
That's a good point, Councillor Morell. That is, and it is dangerous as well. So that would be great. We're going to have Taku now. I've noted yours, Mayor Baker, as well. So Taku, you have a question?
One is quite a quick and sharp question, and it relates to the description around the Wanera Beach. Where are they saying that is? Exactly.
Taku, it's right in the corner there, right.
I thought
right
so.
Yeah, right there. And so it's to do with the stormwater that will come throughout and just getting the balance right. Yeah.
Right.
And I guess I was saying earlier in the meeting, Justine has finished up with the council now. We've got a couple of other project managers working for Nigel and Ron and Transport, and we really need to just get finalisation from Ngāti Toa that they're comfortable before we put in our application. So we're trying to get that progressed over the next month.
I'll have a chat with a few.
Be much appreciated.
I thought it might have been shifted down behind the golf mini, but I'm glad it's in the corner.
Yep.
Thank you. That's your question, Taku?
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Hayward.
Kia ora matua upoko. Ngā mihi nui ki ngā kaikurehira katoa me tō tātou kaumata mo te tauhou. Many of my questions have actually been answered. I have been asked by Councillor Duncan. Thanks, Mike. But there's just a couple of loose ends. I just want to go backwards and work through. So with regards to Know Your Pipes, obviously this project has been triggered by the unacceptably high than expected loads of E. coli in the waterways around Titahi Bay Beach. And yet we're doing this work. Can we have in subsequent reports some gauge as to whether or not the work that's been undertaken is already making an impact on the level of E. coli around the affected waterways? Because I think that's useful in terms of squaring off the story about whether or not this is actually a project that has made an impact.
So to just respond through the chair, I think that's an excellent suggestion. I've been pushing Wellington Water to get the information about the successes of the project at an officer level. I get reports. I had one really interesting one where they found a property that the sewage discharged under the house and had never been connected to the proper piping. And I think the property was 20 years old. And so that stuff is running down into the beach. So that's a great success in terms of how did that happen? How did those people not know that that was happening? And if you think of your measurements and things like that, that one house alone could have been responsible for quite a bit of that. So that's been taken care of. So to try and get some of those stories out from Wellington Water about these are the successes we're having is a very good idea, and we will push it.
Just before you finish, Jeff, can I ask whether this is the right place to have that reporting in this high-level project report, whether we can have a separate report? I understood we were going to have a regular reporting back regarding to Know Your Pipes, and maybe it would be better to have a separate report from Wellington Water and or whoever.
Through Chair, I'm in your hands. I can certainly arrange that from Wellington Water.
Yeah, I think that would be useful. Is that okay with you, Councillor Hayward?
Any reporting would be an improvement, but obviously at the end of this, ratepayers' money has been spent on a project that we want to make sure that the water quality is being improved. So that's the end goal, right?
Absolutely.
Great.
All right. You have
next
another
part,
question?
yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Just on Onipota to Wanera, thank you for the extended clarification and the information contained in the report. May I make a suggestion to officers that for the new people who are coming on board, that they maintain a the proactive transparency that was reflective of the work that was done previously with Justine. The community will benefit from knowing how this project is proceeding. I expect that many people probably won't be watching this meeting online. So again, please, we have proactive transparency through our normal channels and the groups who are very much engaged in this issue.
Any other questions, Councillor Hayward?
Through the
Sorry,
chair.
Yes, one more.
Hold on. Sorry, Andrew.
Oh, I'm just to say, yes, taking that as a given, Councillor, we'll do our very best on that.
Okay, so this is one that hasn't been covered by others. This is regarding page 53. This was mentioned earlier before about the underspend in the transport expenditure. I have been trying to get my head around that area, and I do appreciate Andrew's explanation around the transport. So I thank you for that, and I also thank Councillor Morrell for trying to indicate the specific issues. So I'm going to be careful about how I word this, Mr. Chair, so I don't pull the tail of the tiger. I'm going to give you a visual aid because this has been raised with, and I'll give a bit of context to explain. This is Titahi Bay. This is Main Road in Titahi Bay. I'll post this up online later on. Up here is a section of freshly replaced tar seal, asphalt, and it was, and we thank the contractors for doing that work. And then below it, just below it, is a section that was not too dissimilar from what the section that was replaced. I understand that there is a massive underspend in the capital works and the infrastructure improvement program, and that if I heard exactly what Andrew's statement was before, that there was no shortage of cash. And I have no question to challenge the people who are on the shovel, because I'm not a specialist in this area, but I'm trying to get an answer for the people of my community, one of which said, a job half done is a job not done.
So through the chair, the question from Councillor Hayward is about sealing. So the sealing program that you have, the money sits in the local road maintenance program, and sealing is a capital expenditure, and then you've got the potholing, the general fix-ups, which is more OPEX. You got a budget of about 5.7 million for a year of work, and the capital amount for the sealing is, we can go up to about 3.5 million, something like that, with the NZTA assistance, and we have a prioritised program. So all that the council is saying is part of that road made it into the prioritised program. We'll be back next year to carry on or whatever. We didn't get as much done as we want. The rest of your capital money in roading sits in other areas, along your Kōrero, where you're doing work there, and in your road safety program, and bits and pieces all over the place. And so if we want to do more sealing, we'll probably end up having to do it 100% funded ourselves as Porirua ratepayers, and whether that's a good use of money or not is debatable, and over to you. The capital program, you can see where you're at the moment. You're in roading. You haven't spent as much as, or we haven't spent as much as we were hoping to. But remember, we started slow with Waka Kotahi, the NZTA. Their cycle of approving our funding is always out of sync with local government. And then we had COVID interfere, and we didn't get as much as we put in the LTP, but we got more than a lot of other councils. So in terms of your engineers, getting that money out into the private market, the designs, going out of the shop here and into the market to have downers and others price that work has taken a bit of time. And we've also got the property purchases in there. Where do we sit by 30th of June 2022? Well, we have spent our annual budget of about 20,000 in roading. I don't think so. Best will in the world, that's not going to happen. The planning officers in the transport department think we could be carrying over about 1.5 million. If that was the case, that would be a great result for us. So they think it's going to, our spend and capital is going to speed up now with having purchased those 2 properties in Kōrero, and we've got another 2 we're aiming at, because a lot of your money is in that Kōrero area, from what I can see. So I'm hopeful that that's the case. We do put the road sealing program on the website so you can see which roads we've got. We've had a change in road sealing manager. Remember, you had Johannes. We were lucky to get Veronish. So there's been a change over there, and there's been a questioning from Veronish of some things as he's gone out on site. He's wanted to go a bit deeper in terms of the dig out. Johannes had a couple of roads you go down, say, 2 inches. Veronish has said, on these ones, I want to go down 4 inches. So you don't get quite as much sealing, but you get a better treatment that's going to keep the road in condition longer. So I've agreed to that sort of logic too. You take the engineer's recommendations. So those are my comments, Chair.
Thank you, Andrew. Councillor Hayward, does that answer your question? Or?
Just one sub, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Can I get a confirmation from officers that there is no legal impediment to having a Section 17A review of the services for transport, rate maintenance and repair?
Can I just comment there, Section 17A, we will have a program of Section 17A reviews. We have a report coming, I think, in March, which will outline that program. As far as I know, transport will certainly be in there. It's one of the big spend areas. We're required to do all, and when I say all, we won't do every single function area in council. We, for example, will not do 3 waters this time because of the reform program. But transport will be in there as, there's no particular reason it won't be. So we are required to do them all unless there's a good reason not to. So it's not a review of, I'm not sure what you're expecting of that review, but it is to do with our mode of delivery. And we try to make them reasonably comprehensive so that councillors get a good view of those activity areas.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, thank you.
Yes.
I look forward to that report. I've got no more questions on this item, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hayward. Mayor Baker, you have a question?
Just 2 very quick ones. On page 63 or 17, whichever you're looking at, have we got an update on whether the Skills Hub from Kōrero is on target to open? Does anyone know?
We may have to go back and find that out, I think, Mayor Baker. So we'll come back to you on that.
Okay, and I wondered whether we could have a reporting page on COVID where we're losing money or what's actually happening, because I think this is starting to extend out further. So I just wondered if it was worth having a reporting point in there on that. Happy for you guys to decide.
So we can do that. We do track the direct costs. Graham can probably make some comment, but there's probably some things that are less obvious. For example, when in our procurement practices, when we are spending more money than we expected, we don't ascribe those costs to COVID currently. But Graham, do you have any comment on tracking COVID costs?
We've got a separate code. We've asked everybody to code any additional COVID directly related costs too, so we are tracking that. that has jumped up quite considerably from the month of January. I think it's up to about 300,000 now. From I think it was about 100 or 200,000 at the end of December. So there's probably another 100,000. So we are tracking that. It gets a bit more difficult around some of the lost revenue opportunities, or in terms of that. But we are knowing that within the customer areas like the swimming pools and things like that, these and the arena, the revenue is down, which is mainly COVID related. So as best we can put it into the finance report.
Thank you. Is that satisfactory, Mayor Baker?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Your second question?
No, that was it. That was.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Ford, you had a question? No. Does anyone else want to ask a question of anyone on the finance report? I just, not exactly a question, but in relation to know your pipes and the amount of water getting into, or stormwater and other groundwater getting into our sewer system, I just observed that, as a few others of you would, that with recent events, Mana Esplanade has been awash with sewage from the system. And I guess the question that I would have is, when will Know Your Pipes be moving to that area? And can somebody just help me with where on the program is an upgrade of that sewage system down Mana Esplanade?
Yeah, through the chair, I can't help you with the upgrade of the Mana Esplanade sewage system. We can ask that question of Wellington Water. In terms of Know Your Pipes, if you've got you've asked for a presentation, so we'll do that. At the moment, they've moved the team into Eastern Porirua because they want to take advantage of KO Tiranga doing the Bothamley Park sewer. And so if you think of that big replacement job happening over 3 years with the government funding that $44 million worth of work, they want to see how that connects with relevant houses and how we can get the best advantage out of that. So the team's up there looking for at properties and leaks. Okay, I just remind you that Mana Esplanade is a very public area, and those flows are significant after the types of rainfalls that we've had. Okay, so I'll move on. I'm now, if there are no other questions, hold your peace. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Thank you very much. Carried. So that now moves us to item 6.5, the new item that we agreed to at the beginning of the meeting, temporary suspension of paid parking. I'm going to ask the Mayor to move the report, and then we'll ask for a seconder to open the report for discussion. Mayor Baker.
Okay, I'll obviously read what I've got in front of you. The purpose of the report is to seek a resolution that the Council temporarily suspend enforcement of paid parking in the selected areas in the city centre in recognition of the impacts of the national COVID-19 response, which is having on the city. Do you want me to get that moved before I speak to it?
Well, you've moved it. You're moving the report.
Yeah.
Do we have a seconder? Yeah. So we've got Councillor Morell seconds the report, so you can now proceed.
I can speak to it.
Yeah.
Okay. When we originally did this back in late December, I think it was, at the December report, and we passed this, we weren't in the red traffic light system. And I have been listening to not just councillors, but lots of residents and businesses about the impact that's happening in the city with the paid parking, obviously. And while we're in the red traffic light system, it's just not working. We've obviously got, most businesses have got half people working from home, half in the city. So there's less people around anyway. but it's caused major impact with everybody's lives at the moment with what's going on. And we've obviously had inflation hit a high of 5.9, and we recognise obviously the costs on the businesses and less people around in the city centre. So I was asking that we put it on hold for a year. I know we've put it in, so the cost is there. It won't affect the rates impact, but I'll let the CEO speak to that. So I was hoping to get support for this, because this is more about listening to the people. We've had MSD, they can't get customers to go around and sit outside their businesses. They're there for longer than the minimum time. So we've had people at the COVID centre getting chalk lines. You know, we want all these things to happen now for COVID. So from my point of view, that's why I've put this motion forward. So I am saying paid parking will be here starting March next year, because I've put it for a year, starting from today if it's accepted. So that's where I'm coming from. So I'm basically listening.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. Can we have, Wendy, can you please speak to your paper as well before we open for questions?
So the Mayor asked me last week to look at some mitigation measures. We considered a range of things that could work. But while, as the Mayor has pointed out, while we're in red and there's no particularly easy way of knowing when we'll come out of red and whether or not we would go, you know, travel out of the red traffic light settings, go into orange, then go back into red, we decided to advise you that the suspension, it would be easier to manage for a fixed period of time that can be reviewed before that expires if the settings require it. But we thought that a fixed period of time was the best measure. We looked at some other issues about maybe extending the free period, etc. But none of those really alleviate the core issue, which and honestly, there's you go into any part of this region, any part of this country, and there's less traffic round. This is just an extra burden on some of those businesses in the CBD. So certainly last year, when you considered this first in the long-term plan, we thought we were we had Delta, but we were traveling through that very, in a similar way. Omicron has been a bit of a game changer, and we should have been more alert to what the impact of that was, but actually the kind of tail end of COVID, as we liked to think of it, last year, it is kind of not playing out the way we thought it would at the time. So I think this is a rational choice. In terms of the financial impact, I'll get Graham to speak to it, but in essence, we've invested some money in parking machines. That is not a lost opportunity. We do have to implement this. So you'll recall that during the long-term plan, we smoothed our rates over 3 years. So this would be, this will show up as a COVID impact in any reporting we did, but as long as we implement it next year, we can still, I'm advised, meet our balanced budget. But I think Graham's still with us. So if he can just speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Graham, do you want to elucidate on that?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the important thing was for the LTP, as Wendy said, is that we smoothed the implementation of the paid parking and the revenue flow. And the important thing is that in year 3 is that we get that revenue, so we balance the budget within the year 3 of the LTP. So there will be a financial impact with not with it being suspended, in terms of we may have to have a bit of additional borrowing, but as we've shown already for the first 6 months, we are ahead of budget. We're doing better than budget. So, I mean, it's hard to know until we get to the end of this year. And in terms of next year, we can pick this up as part of the annual plan workings and then work through that with you for that.
Okay, thank you very much, Graham. Okay, questions. We'll start with, I think, Councillor Ford was first, and then Councillor Trillin, and then Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I'll take this opportunity first to commend the Mayor for two things. One, she's taken a huge amount of backlash around the paid parking, and not just the paid parking, but also Titahi Bay parking as well, whereas we know it was a majority vote that got it across the table. And the way that people have responded, the vitriol, and I don't know how you do it, you've got a thick skin, but I know that the rest of the councillors, I'm sure, appreciate you taking it for us. The second thing is that your ability to move swiftly on this, not just you, but the team behind you as well, to respond to our people and what they have said. They've asked for this to happen. They've felt that, you know, we need to remove the barriers for our people to be able to support those local businesses that are down there. So I 100% support this move to have it delayed until March 2023. I had a question around the transport bylaw that we moved at the end of last year, and around those time restrictions. Because the paid parking was free for the first 30 minutes, I think we said, is that what the restriction is now? Is it the first 30 minutes and then you get a little line on your tyre, or what is the story?
Good question. Do we have somebody to answer that?
Sorry, no, it goes back to, well, there are always time limits, even where there's paid parking, there's time limits. So I think they're largely 90 minutes, but it does vary across the city. So it's not the 30 minutes, it's the whatever, it's the full period of time that you're allowed to park there. So even when we implement paid parking, there are still time limits. So on Heriot Drive, it's all day, but in the CBD, it's shorter. And that's to match the kind of demand that exists there. So it's short-term requirement in the CBD, and it's longer term as you travel out.
Okay, just to confirm, 1.5 hours is now the limit.
It's different in different places. The original.
And, back to the original.
Yeah, back to the
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Councillor Trillin, you had a question?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Not a question, actually, comments. I just want to speak to this. I'll be opposing this proposal. To my mind, the core conditions behind the original decision that we made haven't changed. We factored in affordability and accessibility into our decision making through things like the cost that we allocated, which I'll note is much lower than in places like Wellington, and through the first free half hour as well for people to come in and park. So we did address that, and those are things we came up with through that feedback that we got from our community. To my mind, this feels like a flip-flop on what was a difficult decision. It was a difficult decision, but it was one that we made recently, and we made it for the right reasons and following the right process. And to my mind, we've done the hard work, and this feels like we're flinching away at the last second. Looking at the report at 4, it talks about how this is not an appropriate time to impose further costs on our community. But the thing is that this isn't about imposing a cost, it's about deciding where the cost falls. We talked about this extensively through the LTP. Parking isn't something that's free that we charge for revenue. It's something that does carry a cost, and we as a council have to decide where that cost falls. And as we discussed in the LTP, if we want to encourage people to use other forms of transport, we don't want the cost of car parking to fall on those who are making an active effort to use other transport. So if we walk this back, public transport users, cyclists, will continue to pick up a portion of the tab for car parking through their rates, effectively subsidising car users. As has been addressed, I understand that we're planning on picking up this tab through debt. My question to all of you, I guess, is what message does it send that this is what we're willing to borrow more money to fund? If we're cautious about taking on more debt, in my view, that debt should be used for prioritised for use in important core infrastructure and climate initiatives. We shouldn't be using debt to subsidise car parking in the CBD. If it is our view that the business community needs more support, let's absolutely have that conversation. I'm open to that conversation, and we can try and find out ways to make sure that we're providing the support that's needed throughout the time that we have Omicron and the broader pandemic. But let's do that through a full report, examining a range of fully costed options, as opposed to a last-minute walk back of a single policy that we have recently consulted on and made a decision around. So for all of those reasons, I will be voting no on this.
Thank you, Councillor Trillam. Councillor Weehapi.
Thank you. I support this proposal, and I total for what Councillor Ford has said around Anita in the way that she has responded. That a lot of people don't know what's been going on behind closed doors. I have actually been, I do work in the CBD, and I have spoken to a lot of businesses that have been affected by this, not just because there are a lot of people that are working from home with Omicron, but there are people that are just refusing to pay for parking in the city centre. My big concern really is around our consultation processes going forward. So a lot of these issues actually did come up during the consultation process, and you know, hand on heart, I voted in favour of paid parking, but I think with the whole Omicron and everything going forward, our consultation processes need to be a little bit more robust in a way where we do take everything into account, as opposed to us thinking, well, how are we going to save money for ratepayers? I think in the past I think about money saving and revenue, but now with the current climate that we are in, you know, we really do need to look at that. In the paper, it talked about putting, you know, a news release, and I think that if we can make it less fluffy as possible when putting it out there on our social media, because it's not a fluffy subject, it's a very contentious subject. So if our messaging around that would be straight to the point, that would be fabulous. Can I just ask a question, because I can't remember, did this paper go through audit and risk before it came to us in December?
I think the answer to that is no.
Right.
You'll recall, we've actually consulted on the paid parking twice. We did it as part of the long-term plan where there was an in-principle decision, and certainly Omicron wasn't a feature then. We did it in the transport bylaw, you know, which is the implementation phase, and we did consultation then. So no, the LTP does go through audit and risk, but this specific issue we wouldn't have put through audit and risk.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, that's all.
Thank you. Other councillors, do you have questions? So, well, hold on. So I saw, so just hold up your hands again. Sayuli, Councillor Sayuli, or Councillor Ford, you can have another one at the end. Councillor Duncan and Councillor Hayward. Okay, Councillor Sayuli.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hey, I've got a few questions relating to this and some comments. Hey, as we all know, I voted against this in the first place, and I thought at the time that we didn't need it, and because I was voted in, you know, I've been in support of it, and now with the infrastructure in place, I think for us, with the infrastructure in place, it's a bit too late to kind of go back. I mean, we could, but we lose revenue because of the infrastructure is already in place. I thought that we could have worked around this somehow. Because one of my questions is, was this discussed with the parking people, how we could have adjusted it in any way? Before I make my other comments.
So we've had some extensive discussions internally on this. If that is your question, can I just point out that we have sought some legal advice on how we could approach this. So this is not residing from the actual paid parking. This is still, the proposal in front of you is that it will still be implemented, but at a later date. So the investment that has been made is not a waste of money. It is simply suspending enforcement of paid parking for a period of time. So we've tried to be completely clear that it's still the right thing to do, but it's the wrong time to do it. So that is the sense of what we're advising you today. So it's not wiping it off the board altogether. We're not pulling back on the bylaw. We're just suspending enforcement of the paid parking because the particular circumstances we're finding ourselves in. I would make just a bit of an ancillary comment, really, but our staff have had huge amounts of abuse. And not just our parking enforcement staff, but all staff have had abuse about this decision. And if you look at the mood across the country, in fact, everyone's a bit anti everything at the moment. And you look at the protests in Wellington City, you look at the level of complaints that we're receiving. The mood is just pretty awful at the moment. We're all kind of over COVID, and it's playing out in some pretty hostile behaviour in our community. So we just need to factor some of that in to our decision. We need to be, gentle and kind with one another as best we can. So I think this is situated in that kind of context at the moment as well. So just wanted to, it's not really relevant to your decision, but it's a bit of how that all plays out at the moment.
Thank you, Wendy.
Okay.
You've
So
got another question?
Yeah, I've got a few others. So does that mean that the signs would, are we going to change the signs back?
We will just we'll put an overlay over the signs. So the signs will stay there, but we'll put an overlay over the signs.
Okay. I hope that for by next March that we will have a better. We've got a bit of a lead up now, kind of getting a better education strategy out there, because I think in this case it was very poor, and we were, and I feel sorry for everyone concerned because we've been bombarded with everything. But so I just wanted to leave that there. Yeah, hopefully also we kind of make some adjustments. We have room to make some adjustments for next March too. Like I think that was suggested by somebody regarding to have an hour free rather than half an hour. It's a bit confusing. What has half hour? What has an hour? So a little bit more detail and information. Yeah, I mean, I support this. I support the motion till next March, but I'm just wondering whether we're just delaying the inevitable, for another year.
Thank you, Councillor Sayuli. Councillor Duncan.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Look, firstly, I'd like to congratulate the Mayor on bringing this forward. I think it's a brave move and a good move. I also echo some of the sentiments of Councillor Trillin. in that we should be under no illusion that somebody has to pay for it. And this is not going to be saving money. All this, the reason we put it in the first place was to keep 1% off the rates. It was no money grubbing by council. It was to try and have user pays. But I think Omicron has certainly clouded the issue. And I think it's a brave move on our part and a good move to say we recognize that there are strains attached to Omicron and that we're taking notice of that and we're going to shoulder the burden for them for that year. But after the year, the paid parking will come in just as we said at the beginning. But I think well done, Madam Mayor, that's a great thing you put forward here and I support it fully.
Thank you, Councillor Duncan. Councillor Hayward.
Kia ora matua upoko, mina kai korehira me te kau matua katoa. I tried to listen to all the feedback from fellow councillors as to the merits of this motion. I remain unconvinced. I'm voting no. This is an item of extraordinary business. It means that there has to be something so unplanned that it requires council to act. In this paper, Omicron is the reason. If that is true, then why is it this specific response? Perhaps I could put it a different way using some additional context, because there are other ways we could have reduced the burden to ratepayers. If council wanted to be really serious about the additional challenges of Omicron and wanted to be precise about it, then why aren't we discussing a motion about rates for admission for the businesses in the CBD or about reduced fees for council services like this council did back in 2020? Why would nearly all the councillors support paying the CE a salary increase from $356,000 to $372,000 in October last year when the State Services Commission recommended that public servants earning more than $100,000 a year should have a pay freeze during COVID? Why would nearly all of the councillors vote in effect to give all but one a pay increase then instead of leaving a committee remain in recess like this council did in the midst of the first lockdown in 2020? I reinforce this point. There are other ways to reduce the burden, but sadly, the voting record is going to tell another story. The issue that is contained in the motion was in the long-term plan for public feedback, and it was part of a public separate public submission for the amended bylaw. I supported it each time because I care about our tamariki and our mokopuna who fear that they will yet again watch elected councillors fail them on incentivising multimodal transport. Too late will be their cry if you pass this motion as it lies. Whānau, here's what this motion will mean for you who are listening in. The machines aren't going to be taken down, and you will have to pay, just not till after this year's council elections, which, by the way, are in 234 days' time. If anyone thinks this is a victory for those who don't want to pay for parking, it ain't. In the meantime, as has been said before, this motion, if passed, will be paid for with using the council credit card. This council would rather borrow to cover an operational issue than not pay for the capital infrastructure like stormwater improvements, like the motion Councillor Trillin and I suggested, and then got shut down by the rest of the councillors during the long-term plan deliberations last year. I ran for the first time 3 years ago because I wanted to help others by making sure that council understood the implications of the decisions around this table. I ran because I don't like the cynical cliches many people have of local politicians who seem to care more for their own political futures than make tough calls and hit the back button when you don't like the end of the movie. Now, I don't know whether this motion is going to pass, but I know me and Councillor Trillin aren't going anywhere yet, and we will be here to have a serious kōrero about how to reduce the burden on ratepayers during COVID and additional work on our climate change response, if you really want to. Kia ora.
Can I answer that, please, Councillor Leggett?
Yes, sure, Mayor Baker.
That was extremely offensive, and this has nothing to do with electioneering. I can assure you, I put that up originally as no mayor would normally in an election year coming up. This is because I have heard our people and they are suffering and the businesses are suffering. I quite understand your views on multimodal and everything else. The wages for a CE was done because of a reemployment. We have to pay a set amount. Don't get going on those sort of things. You've been pushing living wage and everything else, and this council has been helping you guys do that. Nothing that we are saying today is to do with electioneering. I am very offended by that. I have been listening to our people, and this is for our people, and they are suffering at the moment. Yes, it will be in next year, but don't say that to me, Councillor Hayward, because that is very offensive.
Thank you, Mayor Baker. Councillor Ford.
Alrighty then. Hey, yeah, like I was just going to say that prior to this coming in, prior to us implementing the paid car parking, every ratepayer was subsidising those car parks. That's what we were advised of. That's why we were looking at different ways in to try and save or get some, or to alleviate the rate increases. I had nothing to do with Councillor Hayward. I think the Mayor's response to that. My question or my comment was just around when we had gone out to consult on this, we heard a lot about the first hour being free as opposed to the half hour that was then implemented when we went out with it. When it does come back in March, I just want to make a note for our staff to please look at maybe being having some leeway around the hour as opposed to the half hour. That's all I wanted to say. I forgot to mention it earlier.
Thank you, Councillor Ford. Now, Councillor Morell, then Councillor Waddle.
Well, I wasn't going to make a comment, but the fact that we're in this situation with Omicron, and the two Labor candidates who are on this council are being in the situation that they are taking an uncaring view on this matter. What you said, Councillor Hayward, I think is despicable. And in my view, you're the one who's doing the politicking, nobody else. Now, I can say what I want because I'm not standing again. This is my last term, so I will say it. So as it is, I cannot believe that you cannot understand that the business communities right across this country, and including it very much in Porirua, is on the brink, and they need all the help that they can get by encouraging people to bike down or walk down, as you would want them to the shopping centres to support the business. This is just a move which is not a huge cost, which is going to at least do something to help to show, as your Prime Minister says, to care and about other people. You don't care
Point of order.
One iota about
Point of order.
The business community. I'm not listening to your points
Point of order.
No,
Councillor Morell, I thank you for your comment. What is your point of order, Councillor Hayward?
Misrepresentation. She doesn't happen to just be my Prime Minister, she's our Prime Minister.
Oh, such pathetic.
Oh, okay, well that's slightly pedantic, but yeah, fair enough. Councillor Morell, if you
I support this recommendation. I cannot believe, and I commend the Mayor, I cannot believe that the crap that she's had to take from the public on our behalf and the vitriolic statements and comments that have been made about her and when she would be one of the hardest working mayors that we've ever had. And for her to have to listen to all this crap from a public out there that are frankly have been made scared by all the propaganda is just, she needs a gold star for it. So, yeah, I'm going to support this, and I just find it astounding that, but well, it's probably the fact that both of you guys are voting against this, which I believe is really not in the best interest of our business community, and to at least give them some support to survive, to keep their doors open. So I fully support it, and I fully support the Mayor, and I fully support the CE for her comments about what she also said.
Thank you, Councillor Morell. Councillor Waddle.
Yeah, we've had a few bizarre arguments this morning. That's interesting. I just want to keep this pretty brief. You know, I have seen some of the messages that the Mayor has received and some of the comments on social media, and they're absolutely disgusting. I would say to the people, if they're watching, but they're not watching because they don't really care, they just want to jump on a bandwagon. They don't know what we talk about in these meetings. But when we first proposed paid parking, we this was back before June last year, before we'd even had Delta. And now we're on to our second variant after the Delta pandemic, where, we didn't have a crystal ball. We didn't consult with tarot cards or any kind of foresight of what could come. And I think by moving to, delay this implement, I think it's a good option. I mean, I'm totally for the paid parking. It's far more affordable than any other city around our region. I mean, for what you can get for 2 hours in Porirua, I had to pay the same amount for half an hour in Wellington. Like, we are fair and reasonable and for what our residents need. But in this current climate where things have drastically changed because of the traffic light situation, where we have people not being in the office as much. It was the same during the original pandemic, but I think we need to look at this proactively and sensibly. It may look like flip-flopping, and I didn't realise it was election year, but it's a sensible decision, and I will be supporting this.
Thank you to Councillor Waddle. Any other comments by councillors? Mose, do you want to make a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to echo what everyone said about the Madam Mayor. She has done an amazing job thus far. I think she's done a good job of reading the room and feeling the temperature of what the people are asking for. I think we've reacted promptly to how people have reacted to us, and I'll be supporting the Madam Mayor today in the motion. I was one of the ones that voted against it in the first place. All the people that have messaged me have just asked for a break until then. So to do that now, I kind of feel like we're answering their call. That's me. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nall. Taku, do you want to make a comment at all, if you're still there? So we get the no, that's a no. Before I put the motion, I'd just like to thank everyone for the robust comments. Reiterate, we're not resiling from paid parking, noting Wendy's comments. This is a response to COVID and to the business community, and remind ourselves that the delay is temporary. We're not resiling again. I don't think the financial implications are huge, unlike infrastructure or climate or other incentives, because I think other options are going to be more costly. And so I will be voting for this motion as well.
Yes, we can talk about that, can't we?
Taku, do you want to make a comment?
Yes, I do.
So I met you guys.
Taku, do you want to talk off? Turn off your phone or... Sorry, go on.
I've been listening to all the comments and what I get out of what's been said, in actual fact, we have a term called taki e te mana o te tangata. Kau e taki e te mana o te tangata. When you tramp on the mana of a person, it becomes very hard to be able to retract and to be able to, so that what's been said, to turn it around. So, you know, what we have to do is, I think anyway, in my position, is to look at what's been asked here, is to look at what's been put up in terms of what the city is trying to achieve, what our leaders are trying to achieve. I know our mayor is out there, and some of them I've heard it, man. She's bold. She's very, very bold, and that's how a leader should be. Bold in the face of adversary, bold in the fact that they've got to make decisions that take into account the whole city, not just a few. embolden the fact that you have to show some empathy around different situations. It's not backing out, it's not backing away. We've got a lot of examples of great leaders of the past that face adversity front on. And I think it's time for us to, as a city, to be bold. It's not a matter of shying away. It's not a matter of, running away from what we've already agreed on. It's a matter of taking the whole situation that we're in now, showing some empathy, making decisions that will help our city, our business sector, and everyone at this particular time. And it's not a retract, it's a suspension for a wee amount of time. It's a suspension for a wee amount of time. I guess we've all been suspended at college or primary school sometime or other. It's just a little time to be able to let the city find its way through this sort of COVID response, this Omicron space. Just a bit of time to clear away and allow us to get to the other end of the tunnel and breathe again. So what I'm asking is, or what I'm saying is, I'm supporting the mayor, I'm supporting this kaupapa, this take full on. So thanks, Ross, for the opportunity just to share a few thoughts on this.
Thank you very much, Taku, for those wise words. So I think everyone has had a fair go. I'm now going to put the motion. Can I have a show of hands on screen? All those in favour? Yep. Those against? Councillor Hayward, Councillor Trillin, do you want those votes recorded? Both of you?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Okay. So I will declare the motion carried with those votes against from Councillor Trillin and Councillor Hayward to be noted. Thank you.
Ross, just a point. So the comms around this, I guess it's all about the wording. It's all about, driving home some of the points that have been made here. So it'd be really good to get that comms, that message right on the nail.
A good point, Taku. Are we noting that?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Sorry, who was that? Councillor Hayward, yes.
May I briefly say, as a point of order, an apology to the mayor. I did not want to see this as a reflection on her character at all. This place is obviously, as I've been told by many of the veterans around this council table, is a robust space for debate, but it's not seen as any personal attack against the mayor or anyone else. And also furthermore, acknowledge and support the mayor, who, like many have said, have had to deal with an immense amount of vitriol, with an undertone of vitriol unacceptable if this was done face to face. Kia ora.
Thank you, accepted.
Thank you.
Kia ora, kia ora.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so let's move to item 7, which is external report feedback, or I will move the report to get it on the table. Do I have a seconder, please? Yeah, Councillor Ford. So it's on the table. I take it that you've read these reports, these minutes, or at least read the ones that you're interested in. Do any of the people that attend these want to make any comments, or has anyone got any questions that they wish to raise with regard to these minutes? No? Very good. I take it as read then, and I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Thank you. Those against? Carried. All right, I'm now going to move that we go into public excluded. I'm moving that. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Duncan. Thank you very much. We're going to pause to allow Democratic Services to